Here in the third block, we talk all things temples. We call it the temple ticker, and the pharaoh, that's identified by his Zoom. What do we call that? Zoom badge, Zoom name, Zoom ID.
Uh,
The pharaoh
sure, let's call
himself,
it that.
and you are done up today. You have got the like Buddha faux hawk. You are looking schnaz this morning.
Just came into work a little bit early to talk to you.
Aw, I'm sorry that you had to go into work early to talk to me, but I
It's
am
okay.
appreciative of it. We're talking all things temples, and it's been a little bit since we've talked, so I'm betting we've got a bit to talk about. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so basically for the month of January, there's been quite a bit of temple news. At the beginning of the month, there was a temple dedication in Puerto Rico. And so this is the 176th operating temple that's been dedicated. It was dedicated on January 15th by Elder Christofferson. And he just noted, of course, in the recent years, all the hurricanes, earthquakes, all the things that have happened in the island. And he just thinks that the temple will make a big difference.
And previously, saints that lived in Puerto Rico would go where? What was their temple district previously?
Yeah, one of the Area 70s that was there, he was a Puerto Rican native. He went, as a kid, he went to Washington, D.C. And
Yes.
then previously, they probably went to Florida or either the Dominican Republic.
That's crazy to think about, isn't it?
Yeah. But they noted that for a small island, a small temple is pretty good for them. And so there's also been a lot of people that have tourists that have come to see the temple, coming off the cruise ships and everything. And so, yeah, there's 5 states in Puerto Rico, and then there's a district kind of in the islands and the Lesser Antilles.
It's interesting because you get a lot of traffic because Puerto Rico is a stop for that cruise. So you will get a lot of, I would imagine, tourists that are like, we've got the port day is this, and they'll probably even have a temple day, or the temple open at that time for those that come off the ship. I would think.
Yeah, not too far from the city center. So, yeah.
Dedicated by Elder Christofferson. Do we know of any connection as to why he would want to do it, or is it just his assignment?
I don't know. He just speaks Spanish really well. So that's a plus.
Being able to have it be done in the native language. That's awesome. Good, cool. Well, there we go. Puerto Rico. You don't have to go to Florida or DC anymore, for crying out loud. Uh, what else? What else as we travel through temples?
Yeah,
Groundbreakings?
the week before on January 7th, there was a groundbreaking in Querétaro, Mexico, by the presiding authority was Adrián Ochoa. He's in the area presidency. But you also had two people from the temple department there, Elder De Hoyos and Elder Valenzuela, who were both presidents of the area Mexico. So maybe they kind of have some pull in the temple department, those two Mexican presidents.
Well, and someone was talking in church the other day about they had lived in Mexico City, I wanted to say, and remember it now this there will be 4 temples in Mexico City, and people were like,
Kind
that's
of.
unreal. What's that?
Kind of. There's been a lot of people that are like, technically, it's not the city. It's like, if it's kind of like the huge metro area, megapolis is what it's called. Um, they say, yeah, if it's like Salt Lake, there'd be a temple up in Ogden, a temple down in Provo, a temple over in
Right,
Tooele, kind of that similar.
because it
Yeah.
takes so long and it's so massive. That's what I don't
Hmm.
know that everyone understands is that someone was telling me that it takes like 3 hours if you went from one corner to the other of that particular
Yeah.
region. So
Hmm.
that's
And
insane.
this temple in Querétaro is not in the Mexico City area, but they currently attend that temple.
Okay.
They're probably 3 or 4 hours away. And so this is going to be the 16th temple in Mexico out of the 23 that are announced. And this city is actually like growing really fast. Right now, it's the eighth largest metro area in Mexico, but it's tied for the city with the most growth in the past decade. And so there's been a 66% increase in members of the church in this city in the last decade with the census. And that's mostly thankful to the good economy, the tech industry, all the young families moving there, and kind of a lower crime rate for the area.
This isn't a place so the tourists would go, right?
No, well,
I mean,
maybe a few,
sure, but not like
but not
not like
most tourists.
Cancun. Yeah, not like
Yeah,
Cancun or Mazatlan or Cabo. Hmm.
sure.
What about the temple site announcement?
Yeah, a temple site was announced in Barcelona, Spain. So this is a 4.5 acre or 5.4 acre site in this little town called San Cronat de Valles. I don't.
You did
This is
awesome. Nailed it.
Catalan. It's
Nailed it.
Catalan, not Spanish. I don't know, but it's just this little place north of Barcelona, next to this busy highway. So I'll probably get a lot of views. It's gonna be a two-story, 27,000 square foot temple, and they're gonna build some patron housing next to it as well.
Now, for a place like Barcelona and that temple size, is that about what you would think, or is that larger or smaller than you would expect?
Perhaps a little larger. It's only gonna have like 4 or 5 stakes. Of course, there's quite a few people from Latin America that moved to Spain that are members of the church. So maybe Spain has a little bit more members than the rest of Europe.
Hmm. Okay. And then I saw this. This was just earlier this week about the Anchorage, Alaska temple.
That's right. The church has announced that the temple will be reconstructed. And so currently there's a stake center next to the temple where that was existing before the temple was built. So they said that in early 2024, the meeting house will be demolished, and then they'll build a new temple at that address, and it'll be finished in the summer of 2026. And so when the temple is finished, the old temple will be decommissioned and replaced with a new meeting house.
Which
And
is
so
Yeah, so they so are they this is what I tried to understand, because as I understand it, the Anchorage temple is one of the temples that has had some not constructural, structural issues, whether it be mold or something like that, that there it just hasn't worked like they had sort of thought. So they'll build a new one, and then you'll still have this temple that used to be a temple, and they're just going to put like a different sign on it and make it a different thing. Or do you think that they'll tear it down and put it somewhere
no,
else?
they said they're going to decommission and replace it with the meeting house. And so it will be torn down. But what's unique about it is that a lot of temples that get renovated, they're closed for years. But like
Mhm.
for this one, the temple will be open during the construction of the new temple, and then it won't be demolished until the new one's finished. So there'll be no gap in that temple time.
Well, yeah, because where else are the saints in Alaska going to go?
They said in the press release, they said the closest one's in British Columbia, Vancouver. And
Yeah,
so
and that's not close.
no. But yeah, this new temple, it kind of looks like kind of the Karsden temple, kind of that design with the flat roof. No Moroni, of course. So there'll be one less Moroni in the world.
Oh,
Um, but this temple is kind of historic because it was one of the 3 test temples that President Hinckley announced when he announced all the small temples. He announced one in Juarez, Mexico, one in Monticello, Utah, and then one in Alaska. And they kind of have similar designs, but a little bit different. Um, but it turned out after a couple of years, it was dedicated in 1999, and then in 2004 they rededicated it again because they added an ordinance room and some more space. And so I guess they want to make it even bigger. So this will increase the size of the temple from 12,000 to 30,000 square foot.
so that's like 2.5%, yeah, or
Yeah,
250%. I mean, two times,
sure.
2.5 times.
Interestingly, the ordinance room will be the same. 2 ordinance rooms of 40 seats, which is the same size. But I mean, all the other facilities will be larger, larger dressing rooms and everything. So
Okay, I'll allow it. I will allow it. Other construction updates. We go to Heber Valley, Utah.
yeah, kind of starting to be a big deal. The church went ahead and announced the site, broke ground and everything, but they hadn't gotten all their approval process done yet. And so it's kind of um it's probably not up in the air, but like there's a little bit of controversy that the church wants to amend the dark side skies regulation in Wasatch County.
Which, if people don't know what dark sky is, there are areas in the country, in the world, I suppose, where you have certain ordinances that allow those places to be dark sky. The reason why you want them to be dark sky in some ways is because of like astronomers and those things that are able to study the heavens and all these things, and they can't be light polluted. And Heber Valley is one of these places. And so the big issue that they have is, because if you've ever seen a temple at night, one of the things that we love, that we pride ourselves on, is when they turn the temple lights on at night, it becomes a beacon in the valley or wherever you see the temple from, that it's the big light thing and everything like that. And that will ruin the dark sky in that area of Heber Valley, because those lights will be pointed upwards. And so there are some people that are like, no, we want the temple, we love the temple, just don't have the lights on it at night. And it's interesting because it just feels like it's like tradition. No, no, no. The way we do it, guys, is we turn the lights on at night and it becomes a beacon to everyone. And then everyone else is like, no, we don't, but you don't have to. It can just be like, not that. We'll know where the temple is and we'll catch it in the daytime.
Sure, yeah, the church has had other issues with this and down in Phoenix and in Orange County, California. But the church is saying that they want to have it lit up until 10 p.m. and then turn them back on at 5:30. And so there's still that period of dark skies at night,
Yeah.
but like kind of when the sunrise is happening, it will be light up.
When in the incidences of California and Arizona, what happened?
I think they permitted them to this
Mm.
like that to
Yeah.
turn them off at 10 and put them on early in the morning when people start arriving. And so I think that's pretty, they haven't really got stymied in their efforts to do that.
So fight is over. That's what the Pharaoh is saying. Keep fighting, you guys, but it's over. And then we've got just a bunch of fun little quick updates from various temples. It just looks like
Yeah,
you're naming cities and countries and states here for a little bit. Where do you want to
we'll
go?
just go through these fast. In Salt Lake, they're drilling the vertical shafts that will tie the cables into the bottom of the foundation to create a base isolation system. And so it's kind of interesting to see those cables going in.
Okay.
In Manti, they took the scaffolding off the towers to kind of show the renovated spires of the temple, and they're a little bit different color than it was before.
Hmm.
Rather than like a cream color, it's more like a white, an off-white, and then the roof, rather than kind of like kind of a silver tint roof, it's like a kind of a darker black. So a little bit different look in Manti, but people think it looks fresh.
Uh, that temple looks fresh. I've never heard it explained that way. Deseret Peak, Utah. That's Tooele, right?
Yeah,
Essentially
they're in
Tooele.
Tooele. They topped out the temple with the steel copper dome, and so normally we would talk about, oh, they put the angel Moroni on and the temple's the exterior is almost finished, and so yeah,
Another no Moroni. We're still in
great.
Utah for the next one.
Yeah, they started to put the exterior lights on the Red Cliff Utah temple, so it's getting some attention. The interior work still has a bit to do, but there's a lot of cool photos of the hot air balloons that go through the valley next to the temple.
Oh yeah, that is cool. Feather River, which is one of my favorite expletives as far as the name of a temple. Feather River, California.
Yeah, the exterior looks like all the way done. They said that the next month the furnitures will be arriving and we'll do the final inspections, and an open house committee has been formed and the people have been called to that. So expect some news soon from that.
No dates set on that Feather River temple, yeah?
Not yet. Mm-mm.
Okay. Yorba Linda, California.
Yeah, it's been 6 months since they've broken ground for this temple, but in the middle of the property, there's like an electrical transformer that's there in the middle, and it needs to be removed before they can start construction. And so, still waiting on that construction process.
And that phone call sounds like, hey guys, we've been waiting 6 months. Can we get this electrical transformer out of here? Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think a lot of
yeah.
people
We'll get
point
there.
out
We'll
to
get it. We're gonna get there
maybe that's
tomorrow.
PG&E. They have a lot of things happening in California that people
Oh,
are mad
like
at.
what? Like what? What does the power company in California possibly have to deal with
Just
that's
lighting
more
the state on
important?
fire.
That's more important than the eternal salvation of souls. There is no greater work. How about Oregon?
Yeah, it's kind of similar. They broken ground a few months ago, but the building permits have not been issued yet, and so members there are fasting. That it can start soon.
Okay. Okay. Brazil.
Brazil, yeah, in Brasilia, similarly to Feather River, an open house committee has been formed. The temple looks pretty complete on the exterior, so expect announcements soon from there.
And Okinawa, Japan.
Yeah, also it's pretty similar. Putting the lights up, landscaping's almost finished. They built the temple in the old parking lot of the meeting house. They're kind of extending the parking lot a little bit further to give some more space.
And Bangkok, Thailand.
Yeah, we've talked about this, but that project manager that I talked about that joined the church, the Bangkok Thailand mission, made a video about kind of his story and um, the kind of the miracles he's seen in the temple construction process. And then LDS Living picked up his story, so you can read about his conversion story.
And you can click on those links. Those will be available in the show notes. All this is organized very well. The Pharaoh, he just, I wish that they were on scrolls, what with your name being DeFaro or like papyri, but I appreciate that it'll be available in WordPress format so people can just click on it as opposed to having to translate it or something like that. All the show notes for all these temples, because I know we're going quick, they'll be available for people to check out. Non-temple construction. Okay, so a non-temple ticker thing. I'll take it.
Yeah, in Logan, Utah, they're building a new institute building. So there's kind of I think the first ever institute of religion that was built in the 1930s is there on campus, and it's going to be torn down. So kind of sad.
Kind of sad, but if you look at the links to see what they're going to build are in the show notes as well. When you see what they're going to build, you certainly have your heart go out to, oh, the old institute, and then you see what's being built, and you're like, we're good. That'll be good. This will be much better. Let's
Yeah,
embrace the future, and just tons of like sunlit rooms and a courtyard, and it's just gorgeous.
yeah, it's going to look just like another university building there on campus. So people are probably going to confuse it for, some other building there on campus. They got probably their own custom architect. It's not some boilerplate church construction.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty great.
And
In
thousands
the
of people
meantime,
attend that institute too. So I mean, it's
yeah,
like
in the
the
meantime,
University of Utah.
while they're under construction, they said in the meeting houses nearby they'll have classes, but also they're going to rent some rooms on campus. So
Huh,
it's a chance to take institute classes on USU campus.
there you go. There you go. This is interesting. You've included Wilton, Connecticut in a non-temple project.
Yeah, the church is kind of, for some reason, put a lot of attention towards this meeting house construction. The architect said that, hey, we usually don't put this much effort into just one meeting house. And so um, there's a Wilton, Connecticut, the church bought a property in front of City Hall, and the city's very invested in wanting to keep the town looking historical. And so they've asked the church to, build something a little bit different than what they would normally do. So they went to the architecture board and they worked with them for a few months and everything. And they said, hey, it looks great. You've done a great job. And so then they go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they are not happy. They are contradicting what the board had said, and it was like, we wanted a colonial design that looks more like a, an New England church, but what you gave us does not look anything like that.
And so you get these issues of like, who's really in charge in towns, right? You appease one group and then the other group is not. But the thing that like the final product of what came out of this was crazy because it looks like it's a 2 or 3 story LDS church.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique looking church. They did note that like the steeple kind of looks the same as kind of the other churches in Utah and Arizona, and they said that because they just want members to kind of be familiar, recognize the meeting house when they see it. But the Planning and Zoning Commission was not happy about that. They were like, this is not Arizona. We're not in Mesa. This is Wilton, Connecticut, and we want something nice. And there are some very fiery languages. Like, for example, it's just frustrating when applicants listen to our concerns and don't incorporate them.
Mm.
And so they're like, we're not like bigoted against your religion or anything. We just like don't want your building to look like this. And so they voted to put the decision off for another 65 days, and they're going to look and make sure that they're not violating any First Amendment protections, but they're kind of not happy right now.
And then they also said, "You dumb dumb." That was
So they asked
that
for,
was
the
the
church
fiery
asked for
language.
an up or down, they asked for an up or down vote. They're like, we're not going to make any more changes. Just say yes or no. And they said, right now, no, but we'll come back to you.
That's crazy. Crazy. Are there lots of saints in Connecticut? It seems like there's probably some, but not a lot.
Not too much. Like,
Yeah.
they meet in a building that the Wilton ward meets in a building with another ward, so just two wards in that building, but I guess they need their own meeting house.
Yeah.
In Utah,
Right.
you never get that where you get just one meeting house built for one ward.
It's because they really want church at the sacred time of 10:30. And you can't do that if you've got more than one ward, right? But if
That's
you're
right.
just the
Yeah.
single ward, single use in the building, you get to pick the time. It doesn't change year over year, and you can count on it being at that time. Well, that's a lot of temple news. I always appreciate the hard work that you do, and I want you to know that coming up in a future episode that'll post here in the next week or so, I visited with Benjamin Felix, who drafted out the fan fiction of the
Mm,
Kirtland Temple, and he even, well, I'll save that. I'll save that for the episode. But look forward to that.
Okay.
That'll be something that'll come out here in the next little bit. Thank you for your hard work. I hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body,
I hope that if you weren't able to make it, you'll be able to make it next week.
and that if you are feeling unwell, that you will feel better.
That's right.
And be able to join us. In the meantime, we'll be saving a seat for you
On the back row
of the
of
cultural
the
hall.
cultural hall.